The border is the greatest problem, I think, that this country has, other than the enemy from within. You know, the enemy on the outside is Russia, China. No, we can handle them if you have a smart president. But we have an enemy from within. We have some very sick people.
Yeah. Here is the latest Fox News poll. Blame the following a great deal or some for the situation on the border. And you've got Congress's lack of action at 82% and Biden's lack of enforcement at 74%. You're in Congress. You hear what the pushback is always. You know, it's the Republicans' fault, they say. They listened to Donald Trump and they sat on their hands and didn't pass the Senate legislation that would have made things safer.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
But, you know, the bigger point here is we're discussing immigration, which is a hot political issue, according to the polls, is that if, you know, former President Trump really cared about this issue, why did he block legislation that would have provided more border agents, more asylum judges, allowed the president the power to shut down the border when there was chaos or a surge? That's what, you know, was there on a bipartisan basis and was stopped.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, when a Fox News poll is saying this, imagine what the rest of the country actually thinks.
We have a new form of crime.
But there's no evidence of a bloodbath for Americans living there. Of course, Trump is also arguing that the border is causing a crime wave across the country. But in fact, violent crime rates are at modern lows on average and down in many cities. And multiple studies show that migrants are actually less likely to commit crime than others here. Even so, Trump is trying to cement the idea that migrants are the enemy.
Because as Republican infighting continues, for those betting folks, I'm giving odds of 2-1 on another speaker coup before the summer.
That's how we lose the majority, not because Marjorie Taylor Greene filed a motion to vacate against a Republican speaker that betrayed everyone worse than any Republican speaker in decades. That I'm not the problem here.
Well, you know, the rap against your party, sir, is that you don't know how to negotiate. You're lousy at it, and you have a track record where the Democrats constantly seem to get the better of you. How do you answer that?
That's the same people who have been able to stomach their fourth speaker choice, I think, for merely a couple months, want the American people to believe it is Democrats who can't govern.
This was not a Republican bill. This was a Democrat bill.
Yeah, but people even in your own party are attacking you, saying we do not need more division. I mean, after all, Congressman, look how many people have left. Ken Buck stepping down, Mike Gallagher stepping down, and Mike Gallagher is leaving at a time that even makes things tougher for the Republicans, right? He's leaving early, isn't he?
And their inability to govern is never more apparent than their fake outrage over the southern border, to which many in their own party have voiced concern in the past.
Here's what Speaker Johnson said. I have seen enough. This bill is even worse than we expected. It won't come close to ending the border catastrophe the president has created. As the lead Democrat negotiator proclaimed, under this legislation, the border never closes. If this bill reaches the House, it will be dead on arrival. Your thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunately that he would step out and be able to say that right away before, obviously, he had had a chance to be able to read it as well and to be able to go through it. The key aspect of this, again, is, are we as Republicans going to have press conferences and complain the border's bad and then intentionally leave it open? After the worst month in American history in December, now we've got to actually determine, are we going to just complain about things, or are we going to actually address and to change as many things as we can?
If you need any more proof, well, it was Donald Trump who once said, it's the job of Congress to solve the border.
The only long-term solution to the crisis and the only way to ensure the endurance of our nation as a sovereign country is for Congress to overcome open borders obstruction.
You know, for the avid lip readers out there, I distinctly recall lead Republican negotiator on the bipartisan bill mouthing, "It's true, we are idiots," during Biden's State of the Union speech, in which he outlined measures in said bipartisan legislation would seek to try and address some of the issues.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges, help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
But when I tell you I wasn't expecting a Fox News poll, nor Fox News guests, outside of Jessica Tarlov, of course, to turn in these results, it's a vast understatement.
Yeah. Here is the latest Fox News poll. Blame the following a great deal or some for the situation on the border. And you've got Congress's lack of action at 82% and Biden's lack of enforcement at 74%. You're in Congress. You hear what the pushback is always. You know, it's the Republicans' fault, they say. They listened to Donald Trump and they sat on their hands and didn't pass the Senate legislation that would have made things safer.
But, you know, the bigger point here is we're discussing immigration, which is a hot political issue, according to the polls, is that if, you know, former President Trump really cared about this issue, why did he block legislation that would have provided more border agents, more asylum judges, allowed the president the power to shut down the border when there was chaos or a surge? That's what, you know, was there on a bipartisan basis and was stopped.
Let me ask you a question.
When the same people who tune in daily to on-air prayer segments comparing Trump to God.
Story, and yes, many of us, none of us here on the sofa or the Curvy couch have gone to prison, so we can't relate to that message, but I can relate to the overall message that God uses the least likely. Look at the disciples. They were fishermen. You know, they were probably cussing out there on the boats, and God said, you follow me, and they did. Look at Donald Trump. I mean, who would have thought he would have been president one day when he was on our show for all those years, and then God used
I think that the party he currently leads are responsible for the issue they claim to be so up in arms about, more so than the current president, who is demonized daily on that same network. You know that you're royally screwed.
You know, we need more common sense in Washington, D.C., less conflict and less chaos. We're in a period of divided government. That means we should be trying to find bipartisan common ground. House Democrats have made that clear. On any issue, we'll work with our Republican counterparts when it makes sense in terms of delivering real results for the American people. How can a bill be dead on arrival and extreme MAGA Republicans in the House haven't even seen the text? They don't even know what solutions are being proposed in terms of addressing the challenges at the border. House Republicans at this point are wholly owned subsidiaries of Donald Trump. They're not working to find real solutions for the American people. They are following orders from the former president. That's the height of irresponsibility. That's what the American people dislike about Washington, D.C. at this moment.
Not only are most Americans outside of the Fox News cocoon akin to Republicans' inability to literally get anything done, unless of course you mean for the Russians, in which they're doing a stellar job of offering them red carpets into their party's impeachment fiasco.
This is a very crucial piece of our investigation.
At the end of the day, he wasn't an important part of this investigation because I didn't even know who he was.
Looking at what you said last September, you were condemning your own party's impeachment efforts, saying that Republicans in the House who are itching for an impeachment inquiry are relying on an imagined history. Did you ever think that it would collapse in this spectacular of a fashion?
Well, Caitlin, it's even more of an imagined history now. Obviously, this witness, and we were warned at the time that we received the document outlining this witness's testimony. We were warned that the credibility of this statement was not known. And yet people, my colleagues, went out and talked to the public about how this was credible and how it was damning and how it proved President Biden's, at the time, Vice President Biden's complicity in receiving bribes. It appears to absolutely be false.
But even the most avid Republican supporters seem to be losing faith. Not to forget the fact that lifelong Republicans are fleeing the ultra-MAGA party they were elected to represent.
Now I'm going to move to an area which might be a little tricky for a House Republican like yourself. Mike Gallagher leaving next month. Congressman Ken Buck, he says it's dysfunction. He's gone. The majority is down to just one. Seems like Republicans are in complete disarray. You can't do anything.
That was all going down. I guess that didn't cause you to rethink your decision?
Not at all. Not at all. No rear view mirror. Happy to move on. Dysfunctional place.
I mean, you must have been pretty intensely frustrated to not only not run again, but to leave early. And you're not alone, obviously. Mike Gallagher just said he's leaving too.
Yeah. Well, since this Congress started, there have been efforts to impeach the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the President, the Attorney General, the FBI Director, and in fact did impeach the Director of Homeland, Secretary of Homeland Security. Serious problems with setting priorities. We have a very tragic circumstance in Ukraine. We have a spiraling debt. All kinds of out of control problems, and we focus on messaging bills that get us nowhere.
If this isn't a clear indicator that Republicans are losing their base, even the most extreme kind, then nothing is.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.